Good morning and welcome to Zone. We're under. We all turned our cameras off so that we can only see the intro video. He'll be with us shortly. We've got Ted Moan. Mr. Ted Moan, how are you this morning?
Very good, thank you.
Good deal. Mr. Floyd, you can unmute and you can turn your camera back on when you are ready. There you go. Don't forget to unmute your microphone so we can hear all your wise wisdom this morning. How you doing, Mr. Floyd?
Broke, but I'm happy.
You not broke. You not broke. I
All
love
right.
it when you say that though. I tell y'all time, I know what your kind of broke means.
Now broke, but I'm happy.
You the uncle that when you walk by, you always got your hand in your pocket because you're trying to make sure don't nobody touch that wad of money in there.
Yeah, I wish. How I wish.
I understand. Listen, it is Thursday, you guys. I am loving the fact that we can record from the confines of our home. It is so comfortable. We're getting so much better at this. Eventually, we're going to be like old pros. I am super ecstatic. We are streaming live on YouTube. So if you're watching us on YouTube, hey, welcome to our stream. Everybody wave to our YouTube guests. And I'm also going to put this up on our Facebook page so you can track with us on Facebook. So, Ted, you have been paying attention to what is going on at the North Carolina General Assembly. I know last week we were talking about some of the Supreme Court stuff and we were talking about the NC House and the Senate. What have we got going on? Oh, and you sent me a message, Ted. You said that you saw something where they were talking about the exact same things we were talking about on our podcast. So,
Mhm.
I'd say we're in there. We got the gritty in the city and the word on the curb. We are in there. What's going on at the House and Senate, Ted?
Okay, I got my notes here. Yesterday, Medicaid passed for the second time. It'll be up for the third time today, and
Okay.
it was very bipartisan. 95-21. Then it goes
Okay.
to the governor, and like Senator Debbie Ayer told us last week, it's tied to the budget. So that I
Mm-hmm.
thought that was good. And then next week, the House is going to really ratchet up the budget discussions, and they
Mm-hmm.
they plan what they said yesterday to the next week vote on it, send it to the Senate. So they want to get it done before Easter, which is amazing for the
Okay.
for, yeah. Those are the two big ones.
Okay. So, Mr. Floyd, you were saying something about this being the Medicaid expansion bill being a 3-day bill. What does that mean? You're muted still, Mr. Floyd. I can't hear you.
It's three votes that actually required to pass the bill. So now, as Ted mentioned, tomorrow I believe they're supposed to vote on it for the third time. Is that correct, Ted?
Why?
Today,
Today. Okay.
today. Yeah.
So
Okay.
why
And
is
then
it three votes needed? Why do they need that three votes?
it's just their procedures.
Okay. Is there a is it have you ever seen something go to a 3-day vote and not pass?
Not often. Not
Okay.
often.
So
Because
it's just one of those. Go ahead.
it's just a policy that the House have is that certain bills, like local bills, they can be voted on the same day. So it's just a House policy. I don't know what's on the Senate side, but
Okay.
it's normally there and it also allows the public more chances and opportunity to see the new version of the bill because
Okay.
the bill changed on the second reading and then when they go into the third reading, that's the final one, whether or not they will take amendment. So it would allow the
So
public a good opportunity.
Mr. Floyd, the first vote is the first reading. Is that what I'm understanding? Because I don't understand that realm.
Okay, let's look at the first reading. It's when it's read in,
Mm-hmm.
and it already has been read in. So there's two: the vote yesterday and the vote today. Is the second and third
Okay. Okay. And they can change first and second reading.
amendments. Yes.
Got it. So by the time it makes it to that third vote, that is the final bill. It is exactly what it's going to be. if it, that's what it is.
It goes back over to it depends where it's originated. It goes whether or not it's a bipartisan, just how it's incorporated goes back to the Senate.
Okay.
If need be, they call what they engross and then send it over to the Senate, send it to the
Yeah.
governor.
And this bill, yeah, this bill started in the House. It went to the Senate. The Senate approved it, and now it come back to the House. And there was another interesting one introduced yesterday, Senate Bill 352, which would remove foreign citizens from the voting rolls. And the way it was crafted is if someone is shows up for jury duty and they say I can't serve because I'm not a U.S. citizen, then the courts have to notify the Board of Elections that this person said that they are a foreign citizen, and then the Board of Elections would research that, and then if they are foreign, they will be removed from the voter rolls. I just thought that was interesting.
How I know I may be on this one, but how is it that people who are not citizens of the United States are permitted to vote?
That's a good question.
We all draw a blank there. I can't go to Europe and vote in their election.
No,
but you had to look at how juries are selected.
Mm-hmm.
And that's basically, there's I know one is your North Carolina driving license.
Right.
Yep.
You select,
but you can be license like when and I was able to get a driver's license.
Mm-hmm.
So they pull you as a poll person. So when you arrive to jury duty and you explain to them, yes, I have a North Carolina driver's license, but I'm also a Canadian. So that's what Ted is talking about. That person then is pulled from the jury duty. Now I don't know as relates.
But he said that, but that's the thing. He's saying that they also they have a duty to notify the Board of Elections to the voter rolls. How do they ever get on the voter roll?
It's no different than the person who is deceased that voted.
That's still voting.
No, there's a responsibility by the system is to notify the Board of Election that John Doe is deceased. Once the Board of Election received the notice that John Doe is deceased, the Board of Election has the responsibility to remove John Doe's name from the voter registration list.
Mr. Floyd, so are you telling me? Are you telling me that a person is not removed unless we notify the Board of Elections? Like there's no system that triggers that?
No, I'm not saying that, Natty.
Oh.
Especially down there in Georgia when they moved 1,000 from the voting list. Okay. So I'm not saying that's the case. But every so often the Board of Election looks at it and says that if you haven't voted in X number of elections,
that they'll purge you.
Yeah. So, there's different ways that names are removed from the Board of Elections. So I'm not going to say that is the only way. That's the only.
I think we need to get somebody on from the Board of Elections to talk about that. What do you guys think?
Yeah, it took about 6 or 8 years for my son to be purged after he moved. So he never re-registered in in Wisconsin or Washington or Seattle, and they finally removed him because he was inactive.
But you also say it now. Certain states had a whatever you want to call it, wherein that they cross-voter list. Certain states. I forgot what the name that they used, and sometimes they was inaccurate. The voting list was so it's a process, Teach, that it's just it's a very complex, it's a very complex process to remove names from the voting list, but they are removed based upon documentation.
And I can certainly see how it could be a problem to remove somebody prematurely, but I also understand that it's a problem if you have people who are not citizens registered to vote. Like I can't wrap my head around that.
I'm not. Now what Ted is saying, the person, that's could be part of the conversation. What that person, where I understand Ted said, the person said that I am not a citizen. Okay, I'm not a citizen, but
No, we're not
there's
inferring that they're illegal immigrants, but no citizenship.
yeah, but
Hmm.
he or she can apply for a North Carolina driving license and do and pass that driver license. Uh, you know, just the other day, I was at the North Carolina Department of Motor Vehicle Driver License Division, where they register people to vote, and at that particular point in time, they ask and specify what party affiliation do you wish to be. So there's so many different versions of it. So
Right.
it may be for the average John Doe that you have some on the board of election to come and discuss the matter, in more detail.
Okay. So, so Ted, that's what's happening at the House and the Senate. Mr. Floyd, you brought up something very interesting in terms of the article that you read about the hospital expansion. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, as you know, there has been discussion for years about the care in the emergency room department. And Ted mentioned earlier in our program about Medicaid expansion, passing. That would probably reduce, some of the time stay because that's the only way many of our citizens are able to get medical treatment is to go
Hmm.
to the emergency room, which is the high end of the cost of medicine. So the wait
Absolutely.
time is going to be much greater than what you would have, if you have a healthcare expansion. So
Break
Cape
that
Fear,
down, Mr. Floyd. Break that down what you just said, because I don't want anybody to miss that. You said it's the high end of the
is
cost
high
spectrum.
end of it's the high end of services,
Hmm.
which don't worry about it, Tish. You and Ted, you all have healthcare coverage, so you're going to pay for it. So don't think that they're going in there and the service won't be paid. So those of you who have policies are going to pay for the additional service. I mean
Because it
that,
is so much more expensive to go and be treated at the emergency room than it is to go and see a primary care physician.
and what they do,
Absolutely.
they're based on emergency. I mean, you going in with a shotgun wound, and I get there, 10 hours before you. The person with the shotgun wound, which may not have medical benefits, is going to be received before me. So it's not who
Absolutely.
arrive first; it's based upon the service that is needed. But the new facility that they are going to build will add additional bed space, and that's the key, and also additional support. Cape Fear average time is 8 hours plus, and other hospitals
Whew.
is 3.5. So in that neighborhood. So when you really look at it, it's something that has improved over the years. But when you look at our hospital, people from all around Hope County, uh, London, all over coming to our emergency room. So,
Hmm.
it's going to provide overcrowding. But I think that the new addition is going to reduce the wait time. And for you, when you look at the operation of Cape Fear Valley, salary wise, I don't think that you can have a person of Mike's skill level and pay him $100,000 a year.
Yeah, because
I,
Nagowski, I think you did mention that they were talking about his salary in the article. I think people are so poor minded sometimes that they feel like if they can't conceive making a certain amount of money, then nobody else qualifies to make that amount of money. But we're talking about the head of the system, who you would expect to be very well educated, stay very well informed, for him to be extremely responsive. And you got to pay for these things. You have to pay for somebody's time, their knowledge, their resources, their capability, their leadership. You have to invest in that. Do you our community underlying begrudgment? Because I remember when they would put out the city, you remember this, Ted, they'd put out the city manager's salary and the city attorney's salary. And people would always
Mhm.
get pushback. Why are they making $100,000? Why are they making 200? They are running the entire city. The
Hmm.
whole
Let's say
city, they
that.
have. Go ahead.
I tell you, I remember when I went to the church that I'm affiliated with now, and it was hard for the chairman of the trustee board to understand the salary that the pastor was receiving and the salary that he was making out at Fort Bragg. It, it was just hard, Ted. I mean, when you at
Yeah.
6,000 and the pastor is at 30 plus thousand, you see there's a $25,000 different thinking bracket. So
Right.
you're always gonna have problem with that 5,000 person because he or she cannot think that 25,000 in between. It's always gonna be frustration, you know.
Absolutely.
But that's that's life. I mean, uh, if you have a brand new car, T, are you gonna carry it to a unlicensed mechanic?
Hmm.
I
And
hope
when
you
I
say.
and when right, and if I'm not feeling well, I want to go to a hospital where they're taking good care of their CEO. So their CEO is encouraged to make good decisions as far as everybody who works underneath them. Because I want to go somewhere where they're going to take care of me.
Now, like I said, T, now I'm not kind of disencourage you to go to unlicensed mechanic. I'm not trying to do that. If you feel comfortable going.
Yeah, if that's your thing, right?
Yeah.
Right. Ted, what you think about that? How do you feel about the whole issue of wait times at the hospital and then how the salary of the CEO is a source of discussion?
Well, I think he's worth the salary, and times have always been high, and the Medicaid expansion could help with that as more and more private practices build their capacity for more patients.
Mhm.
So it'll be good for the entire state. That's what I think.
Now let me ask you guys this question because as we're talking about expanded Medicaid, and Ted, you said an interesting word. You said providers. Many providers currently do not take new Medicaid clients. So as an example, my dentist, I had a one of my mentees was looking for a dentist office to take her and her children to. She receives Medicaid. And so I told her, well, check out my dentist. Well, my dentist was not accepting new Medicaid patients. So what happens when you have more Medicaid recipients than providers to service them? Are we going to see some encouragement? And most of that surrounds like billing, and when you speak to these providers, they tell you that Medicaid billing can be convoluted sometimes. So are we going to start seeing some push in the direction of um, some legislation to clean up some of those billing issues potentially, you guys?
I would hope so. Yeah.
Well, the treasurer has mentioned about the billing practices of various hospitals throughout North Carolina. But as you roll out, it will take at least 3 years to implement the program itself. But at the same time, bear in mind now, when you look at Blue Cross and Blue Shield, which has been the healthcare provider for the state of North Carolina for decades, all of a
Mm-hmm.
sudden, Carolina comes in and push Duke aside. Now Duke is filing a lawsuit for reference they did not
Mhm.
receive the bid. So what I'm simply saying to you is that there are going to be providers that are going to look at healthcare expansion and take on those patients because they have the system in place to file the necessary
They have that
documents.
capacity. Okay.
Yeah, they will develop a system to handle the patient and also handle the their reimbursement. So
Okay.
it system will be in place.
Okay. So while we're talking health, can't skip over that was in the past. PFAS levels and PWC. What are we seeing? I know, listen, I've heard that they are finally going to be the people out in Grace Creek are finally going to receive some incorporation into the water system. What are we hearing about the PFAS?
Well, we're finally looking at the national.
Aaron?
At the national level, they will finally are going to look at what the numbers may be. The number was 144 per trillion. So I don't know what that number will come out to be and how long it would take at the national level to enforce it. But what we do know that we've been dealing with this situation ever since 2017. that is with DuPont spent off the Fayetteville Works and then College Shimon, whatever it is.
Right.
But when we look at it, this situation that we have now, it's not new. It started back in the 1940s, or when
Okay.
industry started using that whatever that they manufacture, they push it over to trade secrets. Other words, I can't tell you how I made this burger. It's a secret
It's a
now.
trade secret. Yeah. Yeah.
It's a trade secret. So this trade secret is what we are caught in today. And we look at the amount of money that the state has spent, the amount of money that the company has spent millions of dollars trying to address the issue when Mother Nature is also playing its part when it rains, when the wind blows and it falls on the ground, move through our soil system. And then, it's all a complex process. But back in the day when you was younger, Teach, the federal government was giving away money for water systems. Was literally giving away money. But our community ought not to take that money. But Harnett County, Sampson County, Robertson County took that money. And so many of
Right.
our communities are receiving water from Harnett County, Sampson County, and Robertson. So when we look at it at PWC, it's saying that we have to develop a system within X number of years to address this issue. So the concern comes to it again is that PWC already have told you, Ted, and mentioned to you that they're going to increase your utility bill by $13. That's not including the other thing, the bond issue and
Right.
whatnot. Now, on top of that, you're going to face a $70 million plus $12 million annually to keep the system up. And it's going to be passed on to me. And I got another increase. So see, all the
But
way
listen,
around.
but that's the reality. That's the
Yeah,
reality. We're making less money. We're keeping less, let's say this, we're keeping less internally because we're putting out more externally. And I don't begrudge our government the necessity or their I'm gonna go with necessity. Their necessity to have to take money from the citizens in order to handle the things that we need handled. But Ted, let's just be real. If you're going to take my money, let me benefit from it. So I want to take a moment and I'm gonna give us all a high five and a pat on the back because there are some things that we see going on throughout this city right now where you can see where the money is actually being invested. We see all of these sidewalks going in. That's something to root for because that helps when you talk about Mr. Floyd, the people on the lower end of the income spectrum, that is helpful to them because a lot of people who are on the lower end of the income spectrum find themselves having to walk here, there, and everywhere. And it's so much safer to walk on sidewalks than it is that little narrow strip on the side of the street that traffic is whizzing by you on. So we just want to see if you're gonna take our money, let me see it work for me. Let me
Hmm.
see it work for me. But I want to before we move past the conversation about the water, I do want to say this. I did read that Cumberland County, the commissioners had a conversation about the tie-in Grace Creek into the water system, and they were saying that they have to wait on the response to come back from DuPont. I guess there's some litigation still going on about their responsibility. And it might not be DuPont. I can't remember that. Y'all
well,
know who I'm talking about.
they changed the name to Fayetteville Works Shimon, and then the
That's
county
it.
already filed a lawsuit, against the company, and the law. Cumberland County really wants the company to help foot some of the
Hmm.
water extension.
But I
In
want to see Cumberland County just take care of this, Mr. Floyd, and then go and recoup their money.
Well, it's sort of impossible for you building a facility, a convention center. Now you're talking about a water system with $65 million plus, and then you're talking about the treasurer over here saying that how much debt do you want, Cumberland County?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you got to look at all of this debt, and you can't carry with so much debt. If you carry so much debt and so much vision, then teach you gonna pass that property tax on to me. Can't you
Uh,
understand?
I
You
understand. I
don't do.
understand. I
And
do
that's all
understand.
I'm asking you to do. Be fair with your vision.
Yeah.
Be fair.
Stop,
Don't.
stop, stop, stop killing us with these tax increases. We'll get right into that. We're going to take a 60-second break. We're going to hear from our sponsor, Elmar Realty, and we will be right back. So go grab your coffee, go grab your snack, and then make sure that you find your seat right back in your butt right back in the seat in about 60 seconds. Mr. Floyd, I'm going to go ahead and trigger this ad. If you need a break, get your break in.
Are you looking for a real estate agent who knows the Fayetteville community inside and out? Look no further, as your hometown girl, Latanya, has extensive experience of our area and experience in its real estate market. Latanya delivers results. At LMR Realty Group, we all understand that buying or selling a home can be a stressful experience. When you partner with us, you control the decisions while LMR Realty Group guides the process, and together, we'll work from contract to close with ease. Whether you're a first-time buyer, downsizing, or expanding your investment portfolio, LMR Realty Group has got you covered. As a bonus, if you call and go under contract by March 31st, LMR Realty Group can cover up to $400 for a home warranty on a resale property with all appliances included. Some exclusions apply. Don't wait. Call 910-574-8225 or visit ELLIMARRealtyGroup.com to get you started. Let's make your dream home a reality with LMR Realty Group.
So I am just ecstatic to be able to always play that ad because I love the fact that we have a hometown real estate agent who is invested in the well-being of their client. And so if you are looking for somebody to walk you through the home buying process or even the home selling process, reach out to Elmar Realty Group and they will most certainly get you taken care of. Now, Ted, you have a slide you want to put up on the screen for us. And it dovetails into what Mr. Floyd was talking about these increases in our tax rates. So tell us what you're going to put up on the screen and go ahead and talk us through that.
Okay, I'm getting ready to do that now. And here, share. It's the Fed tax increases.
Okay.
Yeah, interest rates increase. And I went back to last January 2022 when it was only at 0.25 cents. And then we saw through 2022, it go all the way up to 4.5. And then in February of this year, it went up 4.75. Yesterday, it went up to 5%. So my question, which I'm waiting for,
Oh, wait, Ted, wait a minute. This is a year. This is
this is
1
one.
year. It went
Mhm.
from 0.25% January 2022.
Mhm.
Let me ask you this real quick. Do you remember how long it was at that 0.25 prior to that? It was a few years at that
Oh,
0.25,
yeah.
right?
And before that, let me see. Here's a perfect example. Let me grab my paper.
Okay.
In November of 2021,
Mm-hmm.
PwC borrowed $94 million for infrastructure.
Yes.
Back then was 0.08. So
Okay, so
it was almost 0%.
let me say this, and I'm gonna nail this till I can't nail it anymore. Ted, do you remember when we would go into strategic planning and I
Hmm.
would say we need to float a bond for
Hmm.
infrastructure and public safety?
Right.
And they would look at me every time because they did not want me to get credit for doing anything. And instead of them trying to allow the city to prosper at the time when the rates were the lowest, they opted to punish Tisha S. Waddell and every other citizen of this city and not borrow money when our interest rate was significantly low.
Right. And what I found with PwC, when the interest rate was 0.08, they were charged 2.78% interest back in
Which is,
November.
that's crazy.
Yeah. And then just in May last year, when the city borrowed 19 million,
Mm-hmm.
their rate was 4.138 cents, and that's back when it was between 0.5% and 1%, and now about to borrow the first tranche of money, in the next fiscal year for the public safety. Infrastructure. It's on their
Right.
agenda tonight. 25 million for public infrastructure, and
Did anybody ask? Did anybody ask what the interest rate was going to be?
the meetings tonight. So they
Oh,
actually have
okay.
a council meeting tonight, and I've tagged several council members in my Facebook and said, "Would you please ask the question?" But tonight it's all about 15 million of street resurfacing. I'm looking off my notes, about 40 miles. So, and it makes sense. The public infrastructure, they've had lists for street resurfacing.
Oh, for sure.
So
For
that makes
years,
sense.
which is
Yep.
why we should have borrowed the money. We had this prioritized in 2017 when I came on council.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So it was already done then. So this money should have been borrowed when the interest rate was 0.25%.
Oh yeah, yeah, yep. Well, now it's 5%.
Yeah,
My
ridiculous.
question to the council members, and I even tagged the city manager in my Facebook, said, "What is the professional finance staff's estimate of what the interest rate will be if the city borrows its first 25 million for public infrastructure?"
Are you
And
hearing anything back from anybody?
no.
Ted,
Okay.
Are you saying if they opt to do that tonight? Now let me stop right there for a second. Now don't forget now, the Fed indicated that they may increase the rates again before the year end.
Yes. That they say there's probably going to be one more rate increase this year. So
Yes.
what the council has to do before they borrow the money, they have to raise our property tax to pay for that borrowing. And so this current city council has to set the rate based on whatever the interest rate is going to be. And it'll probably be the next city council that actually money, or it could be right before the elections. We don't know, but yeah. So right now, the current council, for this first tranche of money, they have to set the tax rate to pay off all this, $97 million if it's borrowed, and it'll be future councils that will borrow or authorize the borrowing of the second, third tranche of the just like the Parks and Rec. We broke it into 3 segments, and the last one was 3 May 2022, 19 million at 4.138 percentage points. So I will
Right.
unshare this. Yeah, I'll
So
unshare this.
after that, we pay it off. Would you lower my property taxes? I'm just asking. You're taxing me, so I just want to know, after we pay it off, will our tax convert whatever percentage? If it's 1% or 2%?
That'll be
You know
20
better.
years, 20 years in the future, because these are 20-year general obligation bonds.
So you're telling me that my taxes won't go down once it's paid off?
Listen, I'll ask you this question: did the county lower our taxes because they sunsetted the stuff with the Coliseum?
No, but I had to ask these questions, because I got hope.
Well, you hold on to hope. The Bible said, "Hope maketh one not ashamed." Now, Ted, I have a sneaking suspicion that this money and the fallout that could potentially happen behind the impact to the citizens based upon some of the stuff we're getting ready to see this council do is a huge factor for why we're seeing the Fayetteville City Council, some of its members begin to push for 4-year terms. So let's shift into that information about that conversation with 4-year terms. First of all, can I just say that when I listened to the clip on your Facebook page, and if you guys are following us on YouTube, you can find Ted Moan. He's on Facebook, Ted Moan. TEDMOHN, and his Facebook page has links to some of these meetings that you can listen to. And I was flabbergasted at the arrogance and the insolence that spewed forth from Thompson in his response, because we don't have to. And to say, go and go in the community and talk to your people to see how they feel about this. You don't have to come talk to us to see how we feel about it. All you have to do is refer back to the last election when it was on the ballot, and it will tell you exactly how we felt about it. So if you are foolish enough to believe that in a year, with the council having as much negative narrative in the community as it has had, that we've changed our minds, you're nuts, Mr. Thompson. And so I say to you, go back and look at that vote, see where your district stood, and see if you are truly reflecting the voice of your district. Because if I'm not mistaken, they did not even move the needle to say we want 4-year terms for our council people. Did they, Ted?
Oh no. And let me oh man, no.
And I said what I said, and I meant what I said.
They were about 60% against it.
So now all of a sudden, and they had a council person who was phenomenal.
Bill Chris.
Phenomenal. They had the top tier level service from their council person, and still voted against 4-year terms. So come on, please. You're not even good enough for 2-year terms at this point. So give me a break.
Yeah.
I'm glad this is only 15 months. I'm glad this is a 15-month tenure. My hope is that within this 15-month tenure, we will see some turnover when the election takes place, because some of these people need to go find something else to do. I don't know who in District 6 exists that can run against Derek Thompson, or who may be interested, because at this point, y'all, let's just shoot straight. People don't want to participate in this circus act anymore. Quality people who have real tangible desire to serve the people are so dissuaded by the nastiness, the negativity, the bad judgment from the people who sit in these seats, that they're just like, I don't want to be a part of that.
Well,
Go ahead, Mr. Ford.
The data, the information about the voter turnout. I think I asked you last week, have the community changed from, I'm going to say 16%, or had the community changed 65%? Because it takes 51% to change to win an election. So since you were 65% of the voters said no, so you're going to have to convert. The whole community is going to have to change by 16% in order to get the 1%, the 51% that you need to do, to look at a 4-year term. But what I say to people, and especially young folks like you, Tisha, there, and Ted, we of a different age group. Look at the person that you are going to date and how he or she communicate to you.
Yeah, because if you tell me why I don't have to, you are not a good boyfriend.
What I'm saying now, you read the indicators there. You read the indicators of how arrogant that person may be.
Yeah.
You know,
Ted, what's this you've got up on our screen?
So this is, and I did this after Mr. Floyd, and it's broken down by precinct and how the precincts of District 6 voted on voter ID. Now,
there's not. Is this voter ID or is this 4-year terms?
No, I mean 4-year terms. I'm sorry, 4-year terms.
Not one of these said yes. Not one precinct in his district said yes.
Correct. Not one. Now wait until the 10th of April, the public hearing. He said he could bring in 100 people.
100.
You know, he said he could pack that courthouse. You know, he called it a courthouse.
He did.
But I'm going to be waiting for that. But that's District 6, and if I went to District 8, it'd be the same. If I went to any district, every district voted against it in the city of Fayetteville. But I did this specifically because
For his benefit.
just for his benefit. I sent him a Facebook request 2 weeks ago. He still hasn't accepted me yet. He's the one that told me.
I hope he's not talking about anything political on his Facebook page, because if he is and he's not accepted you, he is in danger of being against breaking the law. That's
Just
right.
like
That's right.
Yeah. So,
and I'm in the mood to sue people this week. I just want y'all to know that. So
yeah,
y'all let me know.
He told Mario Benavente, go out to your community watch, use your social media, reach out to friends. And so I said, okay, let me reach out to him. Maybe we could be friends. And that's 2 weeks ago, and he still hasn't, put me as a friend on his Facebook page. So I'll stop.
So let me say this, and let me say this: Derek Thompson made a cardinal mistake. That he committed a cardinal sin for an elected official. He verbalized what he should have kept in his head, because what he said was, we don't have to check in with our citizens to see what they want. He said, if we have the power to do it.
Hold it, Teach. Hold. How do you become a council member?
But because your citizens elect you.
Okay, then I just want to know now. I want to make that clear now, y'all.
And that's why, and that's exactly why I'm saying he committed the cardinal sin, because a lot of people in positions of authority think it. They think it to themselves. Well, we don't necessarily have to go to the people, but they are not. And I'm going to use the word foolish enough. They are not foolish enough to open their mouth and say, we don't have to check with them. We can do what we want to do. So
that old lady in church now, when she leaves the church now, she holds that hand up and tip out. Okay, hold her head down and tip out, and use that hand to mark the ballot.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so our aim, and Ted, I really appreciate you. Thank you for continuing to share that video, because the people need to hear it. And I'll say this again, and I say this every time we talk about this. Y'all know when it comes to Mario Benavente, we are not his cheerleaders, but I'm going to root for him on this one. Thank you, Councilman Benavente, for standing up and saying, why wouldn't we put it to a vote? Because that simple question uncovered the arrogance and the foolishness in a member of your board, and gave us all the ability to be able to see exactly where he's coming from. So thank you for that. And you have earned a bit of my respect for that. So thank you for that. Now, Ted, you were talking about these 4-year terms. I want to move to that, because that is congruent with this. You were talking about the staggering of them and how this could potentially affect voter turnout. We already have crappy turnout. So what now?
I've got one more thing to share. Last one.
Share it, friend.
Okay, let me make sure it's up. So this graphic is the last 7 city council elections. The yellow boxes show when that district was unopposed. There was just one member. On the left side were the very contested mayoral races. 2013, it was Nat Robertson, Val Applewhite. 2015, Val Applewhite, Nat Robertson. And then 2017, Mitch Colvin and Nat Robertson. So then you look at when there's not really contested mayoral races, that the voter turnout goes down most of the time. And so on average, the last 7, we've only had like 15,952 on average. There's higher years and lower years. And so down here, is my mouse showing up on the screen or no?
No, but if you tell me, I can't see your mouse, but tell us where you're at.
Okay, when I get to the second average,
okay,
that's those the 4 years where it was hyped up mayoral races.
Oh yeah, that's
So
crazy.
I did another average without the hyped up mayoral races, and you see the second average is way
Look at
low.
District 7. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, and District 8 also. Typically, District 7 and 8 are the lowest participating. But so if
Wow.
they go to staggered terms in even years, it would most likely districts 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9 because they'll take the even numbers in 1, 2, one time, and then the mayor plus
Mm-hmm.
the even years. And so if we look at the average, when for those districts when there's not a mayor's contested mayor's race or hyped up
Mm-hmm.
one, the total at the very bottom is 6,000 people to vote in a even year election, if they go to
Out of
staggered
how
term.
many, Ted? Out of how many?
Well, as of this month, I just downloaded Fayetteville, and there was just shy of 100,000 active voters in Fayetteville. Now
So when
there's
you talk about voter suppression,
this is
this is voter suppression.
Well,
and they're
Ted, thank
This
afraid to
is
you.
voter
vote.
suppression.
Thank you and Tisha again, because I am a minority. Okay.
Mhm.
This is the first time the word minority has been used to control the majority. The first
Mm.
time. You got 15,000 controlling 80 some thousand people.
Yep.
Yeah,
Okay, Ted, you got 15,000 telling 80,000 citizens what to do. That's the voter turnout, Ted, when I'm speaking of.
yeah, yeah,
This is
and
I'm a listen, I'm a say it. This is racism. This is racism and this is voter suppression because this is saying we are going to disenfranchise by making this a low priority on the ballot. We are going to disenfranchise a huge portion of the population in this change. If they do this, this is voter suppression.
Well,
it is.
I think that voter turnout, I mean, that if you want to change the election process altogether, change it from 2 year term. I mean, change the cycle to
To
even
even
years
years.
instead of odd years. There will be a greater voter turnout and less cost to the city.
They don't want
Yes.
to work that hard, Mr. Floyd. They don't want to put forward that type of effort because they recognize that they will be up against and it's already happening. It's already very partisan. You're already working within this political construct. So, but they don't want to have to reach out to 20,000 citizens instead of 5,000. They'd rather just have to talk to 3,000 people, secure what, 800 of them because if you have 1,200 people voting in an election, you only need to talk to 700 people to secure their vote to win versus having to talk to 20,000 people to secure maybe 7 or 8,000 for the win.
Well, that
Ridiculousness. This makes me upset. I don't get upset about much, and you'll never hear me say voter ID is voter suppression because I don't believe that. You'll never hear me say that changing the schedule of how many times you have to go out to the board of election or is voter suppression. But you will hear me say that if you make this change, that is voter suppression. And
Yeah,
I
and
agree with you, Mr. Floyd, that if they move this to even years, we will see greater voter turnout and we will see a more engaged electorate because they will have to deal with more people.
oh yeah, and that's why in the very bottom of this graphic, I called it non-mayoral odd years. So
Yep.
even it would exponentially go up. Which we saw that last year in the primary. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. But
Yep.
what gets me is when you and I were on council, Goldie on WFNC, he would routinely bring people in,
Mm-hmm.
council members and county commissioners. Um, and around election time, we, ask us about voter participation. And every council member, past and present, know the solution is to simply move to even number years, and boom,
Everybody
instant.
knows that.
Everybody knows that. Everybody knows that. If they're going to go to staggered terms, they need to move to the even years and then stagger it. and then said, you'll get that 40% participation.
That's right, and that's what we need.
Yeah, yep.
That's
That
what
is
we
so
need.
true.
So,
Let me
so
sharing this.
listen, y'all. I am. That makes me upset. It makes me upset. I'm gonna calm down. I know that's probably the most up there. Y'all have seen me get in a while. I'm gonna calm down because now I want to talk about this. Mr. Floyd, you said usually they say we stole, but in this instance, they called it embezzlement. So tell me what's going on with this embezzlement case.
Well, it was one of the most premium, one of the most top, well-known schools throughout the state of North Carolina and throughout the world. It's E. Smith High School, and
Especially as far as the alumni association is concerned.
they have very strong alumni association, and they're also talking about building a new facility
Hmm.
for the school with location, costs, and all that. And just to see someone, and I like the word this time, Chief, investment, because normally they
Yes.
refer to us as stolen. And
Yeah, some thieves. Yeah.
this time they changed the
Ted, they
terminology.
say your population embezzles. They say our population just steals. Yeah.
So, you know, you had to look. When I read the article, I had to go back and look at it again. Is this true investment?
Yeah, look, I was looking for a picture, Mr. Floyd, and when I didn't see a picture, I said it must be a white girl, because as if it's a black person, they plaster our picture everywhere.
They stole
They
it.
plaster it.
So, it's unfortunate that it happened to the alumni, which they have some well fundraising efforts. There for the school. They the triple nickel each year give out
Right.
scholarships to the school. But to do that, it's a very bold. That's why it goes to T. And I said to you earlier, when the terminal trustee board were making 5,000, the other person was making 30,000. It get real complex. So
Yeah.
when you get
You can't
access,
have that person with making the 5,000 handling the money because yeah.
when they have access to this money, you know, it it reminds me of an accountant that was asked to come to a minority church, and the accountant said, "Really, I don't want to take your money, Pastor." I said, Pastor said, "Why you want? Because I want you to tell me what we are doing wrong." So
Yeah.
the accountant said it's very simple. You have six person taking up the money, and you have one person going in the back and counting.
And
You're
that's the
leading that
problem.
person into temptation.
That's
Yep.
right.
I mean,
That's
so
right.
I'll
Because
give
greed
you,
is a powerful drug.
yeah, I give you
It's a
what I think that you should have.
That's
Mhm.
right. That's right.
So
And I said it in jest, but I very seriously, I want to address this because I think it is important. It is so crucial that the media begin to really be very fair across the board with their narrative,
Yep.
because we have seen on numerous occasions how the media will weaponize words and will weaponize imagery against certain populations, and that is just, it is unethical, it is intolerable, and it just at this point should no longer be an expectation. I think that we should see some equity in how the media addresses these issues. If at Pine Forest with Lily, it's embezzlement, then most certainly at Smith with Shanika, it should be too. And I just it is we have to address it, and we have to make a demand of our media to do better. And when they don't, just like when Bill Bowman had Tyrone Williams plastered across the front of his newspaper in this wanted ad, which
Right.
was extremely derogatory. I don't care what the man did. You do not make a picture that is reminiscent of runaway slave photos and put them on the front of your newspaper. And
Right.
if you're ignorant to the fact that that's what that evokes, you need to have a more diverse staff, and you need to
Mhm.
permit them to speak freely so that they can keep you from making these types of errors.
but Tish, I tell you what, I don't think the media, the first thing the media does in any news blitz that they have, they say Tisha Waddell, age 15. Okay, the first thing that
Right.
they put they put the person age, and then they go with the article. I just try to figure out, oh, what's the age got to do with the article? I don't care what kind of article that they print. The first thing they print is the age, then they go into the article itself. And I think that they're saying that the older you get, the dumber you get. So we got to let the public know that Ted is of a real aggressive thinker, but he is too old to think.
So what I hear you saying is we're not only dealing with racism, but when you reach a certain point in your life, now you begin to deal with ageism.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's what they do.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
check it out. Every article that you see, it gives age, and then it get the person name, age, and then the article. I mean, I'm just trying to say, what's the correlation?
Yeah, because I remember Bill Kirby called me one time and he said, "Now, how old are you?" And then he said, "I know you're not supposed to ask, but do you mind if I?" And he was courteous about it. "Do you mind if I put your age in the article?" And I was like, "I don't mind, but I see what you're saying is that it should not be a qualifier. I think you can say this person is a teenager or this person is an adult, or you don't have to necessarily say age 63 or age 28 or age." I get it. I get it.
Mean, it's to me, it's the meaning, the person who has a whole host of knowledge. And the first thing you look at is the age. It's just like with
Do you think people should be required to take competency tests at every, like, I think whether you're 20 or whether you're 80, you should have to take a competency test if you are in certain positions?
Well, put it like this right here, T. So you're telling me that because I'm 42 years old, I shouldn't run for president unless I take a test?
No, what I'm saying is, I believe whether you're 20 or 40, I think it should be a standard, because then it's not ageism. Then it's really about, we just want to know if you're dumb as a rock before we give you the permission.
Why should I have to take a test, when I'm running for office? I mean, now
because we need to know if you're competent. Because listen, how many times, Ted, how many times have you sat in that dais and looked over at one of your peers and been like, "You sound like an idiot"? Wow. I mean, you didn't say it out your mouth, but you most certainly had a moment where you sat there and you thought, "You're not getting this at all. You're not prepared."
The public can do that many times. I mean, if you look at some of the national elections, not all of them.
You're right.
You're right. The public determined that this person has a problem.
You're right. And I guess that would go back to also like the can you write your name, or can you, it would evoke that emotion if we went back to something like that.
I mean,
but I just want dumb people to, I want people who are not very intellectually sound. I almost used the D word, but I'm not going to use that. I want people who are not intellectually sound and who do not reason well. I want them to find a position that's well suited for them, because everybody doesn't have to have the same skill set. But I think when you have people who have to go through the volume of information that an elected official has to go through, and who have to process that information and then make good decisions based upon that information, certainly we need people who have the ability to be cognitively sound.
I'm going to give you an example, Tish. When you look at a school teacher that you feel that should be well economically sound, and you look over there at that bricklayer that pants is raggedly torn up, and he doesn't make $37,000 a year. He makes $65,000.
Absolutely,
he has a skill.
Absolutely.
Be a bricklayer at $65,000 than getting combat pay for teaching students.
Absolutely. And I'd rather have, and even if you are not, and I'm not saying, that's why I didn't use the D word, because I don't need you to be super intelligent. I just need you to cognitively be able to function, because you might have, like, I'm gonna tell you, it's been some people that I've sat with that I've been like, you're not smart, but you are definitely strategic. You're not, when you speak, you may speak in a way that doesn't sound intellectual, but you most certainly have this capacity that lends well to you doing this work. Like, I can see the value and the benefit, but if you just janky all the way across the board and it's just not coming together for you, there's something else to do.
Well, we have a long way to go in a short time to get there.
You right. And you're also right about the fact that that's the voters' responsibility. So I say to the voters, y'all pay attention to these elected officials. And if it looks like it's just not clicking for them, stop voting for them. Vote for somebody else. Stop voting for a person just because they're your political affiliation or your ethnicity or your gender. Vote for them because you really believe that they can do this job. Mr. Floyd, you had a PSA. I need to get off my soapbox because I'm on one today. What is your public service announcement?
No, there's so many, but I just want to leave this with you. If and Ted talked about infrastructure, if they're talking about road resurfacing, okay, and you've been asking that person for 20 years to have your road resurfaced,
right,
going into the 30th year, you need to do an assessment.
Right.
Road resurface every year, but your street never make the list. You need to do an assessment.
But you also were talking about these fences. What you want to tell the people about these fences?
Well, that's another example. People want to put up privacy fences, and I didn't know until the person told me, and then he told me Glenn Adams had the same problem. That the city of Fayetteville, which I salute them, have a very creative way to generate more revenue. It's to charge you for putting up a privacy fence.
Yeah, and there's rules to how you go about it too.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
and I salute the city for doing that.
But people need to know you got to pull that permit.
You got to pull that permit. So if you're thinking about putting up a fence, go by the city before you get the afterburner, and that is a late charge because you did not go by the city and pay for that. So I salute the city and you two council person for serving, for looking at very creative ways to generate additional revenue.
To keep that money rolling. Well, while we're talking about PSAs, I want to give a public service announcement. It's a North Carolina ordinance that you cannot park an 18-wheeler in a residential neighborhood. So if you have if you drive an 18-wheeler.
Cutting you off again, T. It's all right to park an 18-wheeler in minority neighborhoods.
But it is not. And it is not.
All the time. And drivers know that they can park 18-wheelers in minority neighborhoods because they don't have to worry about getting the penalty. They can play loud music all the time in minority neighborhood. Nothing is going to happen. So
we're changing the narrative, Mr. Floyd. Because let me tell you, I'm gonna tell y'all this, and then listen, they can't do it in my neighborhood because
it's all right. It's all right to park 18-wheelers in minority neighborhood because there's nothing that's going to happen to that vehicle until 22 days after it's been parked there. So it's all right.
Yeah.
It's all right.
Well,
it's not all right.
I will say this. I think that what we need to encourage our viewers to do, if you live in those neighborhoods where you see an 18-wheeler park, there is a North Carolina statute that says it is not permissible. Call the police. You can call code enforcement and that is fine, but call your police. And if they do not do anything, you need to reach out to Chief Braden and you need to let him know. Because there's this idea that only people of influence have access to these high-level officials, and that is a misnomer. That is a misnomer.
Teacher, don't get me wrong, teacher. The city does a good job in trying to enforce that, but there's limits in which they can stay within.
There's limits to code enforcement. I'm telling you, I just had this conversation with a code enforcement agent because we had this problem in my neighborhood. Code enforcement has limits. The police do not. The police can have that rig towed. The police can ticket that rig, and a ticket is costly.
Yeah, you're right, because the city has done it in my neighborhood, and I think the person is fined $200, but it don't look like it had taught him a lesson because he continued to park.
And I would continue to call Mr. Floyd. If you keep having that problem, I'm gonna tell you to reach out to offline because he is getting some action for us. So all of us in these minority communities, Ted, I don't know where you stay. You in the minority community? Y'all got 18-wheelers?
It's a small. We're very blended. When I go to our community watch, I am the minority.
Okay, so if y'all have a problem with these 18 wheelers, y'all let me know because we're cracking down. Upzone is cracking down on these 18 wheelers.
Well, Teach, like I said, there's so much good in the worst of us, and so much bad in the best of us. To the behoove none of us to talk about the
Talk
rest
about
of
the
us.
rest
But
of
help
us.
me out, please.
I love y'all. I love y'all. And I appreciate every week being able to do this program. It's always a pleasure. Ted, you want to leave us with some parting words?
Um, yes, I have a slide on cast,
Okay.
and what this shows is voter participation.
Wow.
So the far left by district, November 7, 2017, a regular odd year, and then
Mm-hmm.
here in where it says November 8th, 2022, even year election.
Yeah.
So a 100%
Wow.
increase is a complete doubling. You know, and
Wow.
so
And that was an off kilter election for the council because they weren't even supposed to be on the ballot. So this accident uncovered the truth of what we're saying all along.
yeah. Figures never lie, but liars can figure. So
That's the truth.
automatic right here. 49,000 people, November 2022 in the
Look at
district.
District 9, almost a 200% increase.
Yeah, and so that's
Wow.
the difference, and that's why city council is afraid to go to even year election. And now, if this was a presidential election, there would be
Skyrocketed.
this is
So
just a
let me encourage all of our viewers to grab this screenshot and to share this. Share this. It's okay. It's if you put it on our page, that's fine. Share it, share it, share it. Because like Mr. Floyd said, there's so much good in the worst of us, so much bad in the rest of us. It behooves none of us to talk about the rest of us, but we all need to share good information.
Mhm.
And family, that's the gritty in the city and the word on the curb. Make sure that you like, should subscribe, share, follow. You can find us wherever you get your major podcasts, wherever you listen to them. You can also tell your people they can watch us on YouTube because that's where we're at on YouTube. We're doing the doggone thing. And that's all we got. Y'all don't hang up. Just turn off your cameras and I will go ahead and play our outro and we will catch y'all next week.